episode, we are going to be talking about some recent reviews. We are going to be spitting a little bit of shit, maybe some praise at Preservation, which is from director Christopher Dunham, I believe is his name.
Yeah, I believe it's Denham, and
Denham. Okay.
The guy actually has a really good resume as far as an actor.
Yes.
And this is his debut as a director.
No, he actually directed a movie that randomly I saw when I was looking up found footage. It's a found footage movie with Adrian Neardar Heroes. Pazdar. Adrian Pazdar and unknowns called Home Movie. We get maybe a separate review on that in and of itself. Don't judge him on that one alone. But yep, Preservation, which is currently streaming on Netflix. Nate, do you want to take it away?
Okay, Preservation. It was refreshing to not see a found footage movie. I know that at this point, probably half of all horror movies that come out are found footage. I wanted to lead with the biggest point of praise that I could give to this film, which is how good it looks. It's got a decent cast. We have 3 characters going up into a remote woods for a camping getaway. This is a standard horror setup.
Yes.
Once they get deep enough out into the woods that they're completely cut off from civilization, they realize they are being hunted. All of their supplies are taken. The dog disappears. The guns disappear. They even get jacked for their shoes. Mm-hmm. So, this is real deep ghetto. Yeah. And then, as you might expect, they have to fight for their lives against an unknown enemy. Yeah. I don't want to say, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen a movie like this before, and I guarantee you, if you have, you've seen a better movie than this one before.
Right on.
As good as the movie looks, and it looks good enough that I forgave it all its sins for the first half.
Okay.
It was a little slow, but I'm like, the acting isn't bad. You've got Pablo Schreiber, who's Pornstache from Orange is the New Black. He was also in season 2 of The Wire. He plays an Iraq vet with PTSD, possibly, trying to reconnect with his brother.
And is that guy the brunette or the blonde?
That is the brunette.
Okay, right on.
The young lady, her name escapes me.
Ren Schmidt?
Yeah, she. Anybody that watches Boardwalk Empire will remember her. She was memorable on that show. Definitely not A-list actors, but in terms of story structure, in terms of villainy, in terms of the kills and the violence, the further it went on, the more I realized I was giving this movie a chance for no good reason. It was a dog. It was a turd covered in hair.
Woo!
Yeah.
No, don't hold back. Tell us how you feel, man.
Yeah. I wanted to like it so much, but then when we get later on into the violence and the attacks, they were predictable and boring. There are only 3 people in your victim pool. Sure. So there's not going to be a lot of kills. 2 of them involve the victim turning the tables, apparently beating the assailant to death, only to turn his back at a key moment and stand there until he hears a noise and turn around and be killed. Like, out of 3 people, 2 of them die exactly like that. Yeah. There's no creativity. When you get to the reveal of who the villains are, anybody that's seen The Strangers or Them or any other decent horror movie, of that ilk, is just going to be woefully unimpressed. And by the time I got to the end of it, I was actually a little pissed that I had spent 94 minutes of my life.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And you know what? If it would have been completely non-professional, I would have given it a little more leeway. Last week, just to set a bottom for myself recently,
right?
I watched a Uwe Boll sequel.
Oh God!
That he didn't even direct. One of his apprentices directed it.
Oh, it wasn't even good enough for Uwe Boll.
It's
okay.
Seed 2, Blood Valley, The Revenge of Seed. Almighty. Okay, so, and this set the bottom level for like 0 out of 4 stars.
You're brave, sir. You're brave.
Now, I'm glad I watched that because plot-wise, it was a waste and all that, but it was also poorly shot. It didn't look good. It felt amateur. Preservation does not feel amateur. It feels professional with, like, a really, really terrible script. So it's a waste of a directing talent. It's a waste of acting talent. So maybe I'm coming down on it a little hard, but with that premise that I set up and these tools that they had at their disposal, they could have made something at least good.
Well, you know Christopher Dunham?
Denham.
I wrote the script also?
Yeah, so he maybe...
No saving grace on that one, then?
He needs to jump out like Steven Spielberg did. And, hey, I'm going to direct. I'm not going to write.
Okay, yeah, you know? I can see that.
Scorsese doesn't even really write anything. He just directs. You play to your strengths.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But everybody wants to be an auteur. All right, so I've ranted a lot about this movie. What was your take on it?
I loved this movie.
Really?
I had to stop myself from watching it twice.
Right.
Before. See, this is the thing, and we mentioned this before, is it's almost like you don't need remakes of horror movies sometimes, because there are so many, I guess you could say amateurs, so many rip-offs out there that you can get your Friday the 13th in sleepaway camp.
Sure.
Like, oh, I want Friday the 13th, but there aren't any more left in the series. Oh, but I can go watch The Burning. I can go, and I can get my, Friday the 13th fix a little bit. I have to say, too, and I believe I said this to you before, that other than the slasher, possibly my favorite subgenre of horror is the survival film. High Tension is one of my absolute favorites of all time.
It's a great movie.
Yes. Ending aside. And I loved Eden Lake a lot, which I think that's probably one of the closer things to relate it to, just because it is so, once it kicks in, it's like almost real time, and just it really, and High Tension does this too. Hills Have Eyes, all these kind of things that hooks you in. Now, I'm not saying that it's as good as Hills Have Eyes or
Eden Lake.
Tension or even Eden Lake.
Yeah.
That is one of the hidden classics that I love. If you buy into its premise, which I know a lot of people are like, fuck you, are going to be the same people who say fuck you to this one. But if you can buy the premise...
I think Eden Lake executes that premise.
Plus it has Fassbender in it.
Yeah, I think that it just executes that premise so much more effectively.
Well, it also wasn't, not to say too much, hiding its premise.
Right.
So, no, Preservation I absolutely loved. I can't wait to watch it again. I'm very forgiving with these kind of movies, I guess you could say. I thought it was very well shot. I thought for the restrictions of these types of movies, keeping it in real time and everything, that I really enjoyed the script. Even though I knew where it was going, that was something I was willing to forgive, because the actors were really good.
They were.
The killers' designs were good. I thought the kills were pretty fun. The first two are pretty damn weak. I will admit to that, and it does have the whole, you son of a bitch, why don't you hit him one more time?
Do something.
Right.
That's a trope I hate, and that's in there. But it kind of... It inspired the whole, like, I started to get angry, and it's like, fight back better.
Right.
And then to see who ends up being the last one. Is that a spoiler to say who ends up being the last one? I don't think so.
No.
I think the order of the other two and things like that might be... Anyway, so when the girl finally rises up, which we see in every horror movie.
Sure, it's the final girl. It's the trope.
That was so cathartic and cool for me. Like, I thought this girl, she's now on my list of, like, people to watch. She looks a lot like Jane Levy from Evil Dead remake.
Yeah, she does.
But I loved the brutality of it, because I thought it was going to be more of a comedy from the beginning. More of an edge towards dry pan and stuff.
You know, my favorite part of the entire movie was, I hope it was an homage and it was intentional and it wasn't, just a dead lift, but where the guy is in the outhouse and they start stabbing through, the killer starts stabbing through the outside of of the outhouse, which is totally from Friday the 13th Part 5.
Which is one of my favorite sequences, actually, hidden in that terrible movie of Friday
the 13th.
Yeah,
well, it's memorable, so I saw it in this movie. I was just like, hey, a new beginning.
Right. But, yeah, it also reminded me of Evil Dead when she, just sticking machetes through and, like, where's it going to come from? I love that kind of stuff. Again, this is the kind of thing that I just love. I love that there are parts that take place in a porta potty. There are parts that, like, people end up, like, covered in shit and dirt and hair and sewing themselves up and just this brutalness. I loved the part where they go into, like, the quote-unquote museum towards the end because, one, the theme of the museum, I thought it might be a little bit too on the nose, but I liked that a lot. That reinforced its theme, I thought, in the fact that it was playing America the Beautiful as that scene was going on. I was like, one, it reminded me that I liked that song. Two, and you might whatever, this is the allegory, if there is one. I don't look for political allegories in movies. I choose to leave that stuff out.
I actually hate it when a political allegory makes itself apparent in a film.
I don't. And so it borderlined on maybe there was some apparent, but I forced that out. I'm like, I want to watch my movie. I don't want to think about politics. But that was like, oh, that's actually kind of creepy in context. Not that it's actually creepy, the recording, just the idea of kind of like what it was saying by playing that. I thought the reveal of the villains was cool, even though you've seen it before, but what haven't we seen before?
Sure.
I liked all of it, although I do have to, and possible rant here, I do have to say that I was thinking it was a comedy, and I didn't almost turn it off, but there was some stuff in that script, dialogue-wise, that I was like, dude, you're not... Who was the person who was like, who read the very first draft and was like, dude, no, you're not allowed to say those lines anymore. Like, this is a joke. But, like, there's that one scene where, and this might be spoilery too, so I might have to cut it out, but one character, like, he touches his wife's, you find out that the main girl's pregnant. Upping the stakes. I don't think that's a spoiler.
No, it's too early in the film.
Yeah, exactly. And one, how they showed it, like when she that's what I didn't think I was going to like it. She goes into the bathroom at the rest stop, and like, I'm like, dude, don't do it. Don't fucking do it. And she pulls out a pregnancy test. I'm like, oh, fucking course.
Yeah.
And I was like, this movie's going to suck. But anyway, so at one point they're separating, and she's like, I can't go over the mountain without you. I can't leave you behind. I can't. And he's like, no, babe. And like touches her stomach. You won't be alone. Yeah. I'm like, Lyscapades is all. I had to watch Lyscapades after. It was like, get it, my baby. I'm like, dude, you can't do that stuff. And like, that was bad. I was like, oh, you won't be alone. You got my baby to protect you. I'm going to name it Hope. It's like, oh, come on. But other than that stuff, I really thought it picked up. I thought the X's on the heads was creepy. I thought there was a lot of good.
The smiley face stuff was good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So, what's your rating on it?
Oh, Jesus. I'm so high off of it, I would almost say 4, but I'm going to be smarter than that and wait for the high to die down from it.
Sure.
Especially because I just want to you after hating it so much. Also, one thing I think we're going to institute is 1 to 10.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Let's do 1 to 10. And then we'll do the 1 out of 100 so we can do 75.9s. So out of 10 hockey masks or whatever, you want me to do mine first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think mine's pretty obvious what it would be. I would give it definitely a solid 8 because it could go higher. I do not think it's going to go lower, but it is a solid, if you like this kind of stuff, solid recommendation, and it has potential of going higher.
And I'm going to go 3 out of 10.
Boom.
But, when discussing our all-time favorite movies,
right?
When it comes to horror movies, nothing is set in stone after my initial viewing. Like, that initial viewing is so important, but a movie can't, no matter how much I like a movie, it can't make it onto an all-time list for at least like 4 or 5 years.
Yo, no, exactly.
You know, right. it's I've got to see if it ages well.
Yeah.
And some movies age better than others.
Sure.
But right now, first viewing, 3 out of 10.